show. How is your show this year progressing? Are you happy with it?
Yes, and I will admit, and I hope there'll be people listening now who'll probably demand their money back then, because I wasn't entirely happy with the first 3.
Okay.
Having done all previews and by and large had them go well, and I was ending on a joke that I thought worked. When you're writing a new show, it's like your opening joke and your closing joke is your most important one. And I thought, I was really happy with my closing joke. I went, now I just have to write all the bits in between.
Okay.
And grand. And then I brought it up here, delighted with it, and I would get to the end every night, and it was like, oh, this closing joke's not a closing joke, is it?
Oh shit!
And that was that was a bit worrying. But now I have a closer.
Okay.
Awesome closer.
Is it that you've fixed the existing closer, or you've gone?
I've moved the closer to the middle now. It's been relegated.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a really. It's like when they move something from prime time into daytime.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a good sign for a joke. I sat it down and I broke it to it, and said, "You're just not. It's not working out."
Can you tell us?
We decided to go another way.
Let's get specific about it. What was the joke? Would you mind telling us what the joke is?
I have a thing in the show about. I have rules as to who can be my friend and who can't now.
Sure,
because I have too many friends because I have children now, and I don't have time to see the friends I've got. Plus, I have new friends who got to be my friend just because they have children the same age as mine, which I think is a sneaky way into my life. That's sort of my wife likes your wife. Well, I guess I'm going on holiday with your dull fucking arse for the rest of your life. So I have this thing about, and I have different triggers about, a while ago, I can't be friends with you. Like if you use this phrase or you do that, or you do this. And so one of them is, if you have ever said, "Oh, I've touched a nerve there." I think people who say that, I hate people who say I've touched a nerve there, because that's, they say that's what somebody says that to you when they've insulted you and you've had the temerity to get offended by their insult, and then they take that to mean their insult is true, and it's just a horrible conversational gambit to just pull on somebody. You're a terrible father. What do you mean I'm a terrible father? Touch a nerve there, and it's just, I will touch your nerves, and not in a nice way. And so I say to the audience, if anybody of you have ever said this, take this home with you and write it on your mirror and never forget it. You are a worthless, slimy maggot. A worthless piece of shit, and your only way to make yourself feel better about yourself is to make other people feel worse about themselves. And if that hurts to hear, I've touched a nerve there.
Sure.
Which I think, it's nice. It's sort of circular. It's got to size it all up and all this. And it had been working really, really well. And I don't know whether I'm putting too much into it and people could see the end coming or what, but it just wasn't flying.
Okay.
And what I had been closing with, or what I had been like before that, I've been telling a story about a vasectomy. A potential vasectomy. Yeah, that's very funny and has a load of lines in it, and towards the end there's some very funny jokes in it. But it's a weird thing is that even though there's big laughs in it, I could close on the biggest laugh, but it's like you'd almost leave the audience going, yeah, but and then what happened in the story? Okay, it's like the actual end of the story isn't particularly funny. Sure, you know what I mean? You just and just you can't just go big laugh and then go, and so then we decided not to do it after all. Good night, Yeah, okay. So that's why it needed to just, even though it was big laughs, I still thought, oh, it's a funny joke, but it's not a closing joke. Sure. That's a funny thing about it. When you're doing an hour-long show, it needs to have just that sort of level of structure where your closer's got to be a bit big. Sure.
Where did you, at what point do you think you learnt that in particular? In terms of like lessons you've learnt as a comedian, I mean, everyone always says you close on your funniest bit, so that's quite a sort of
open with your second funniest joke, close on your funniest joke.
Yeah. And you're looking at it from the perspective of, okay, that might be the funniest joke, but that still doesn't mean it's right for the end. Yeah. When did you kind of catch on to that? That's obviously you've been a comedian for a very long time. That's quite a sophisticated, that's like another level of. Yeah, I don't know,
and it's one of those things that you don't consciously think about. I don't think that much. I think it's something you maybe learn instinctively at first, and then make more conscious decisions on as you go on, as you get better at working out what is, as I say, what constitutes a closing joke and what doesn't. Generally, like a lot of comedians, I'll see, particularly if they're doing a big long themed show, they'll finish on something quite emotional, like it's a best man speech.
Yes, okay.
And they'll finish on call your dad because you might never see him again, or something like that, where it's all very
some kind of emotive message at the end of it. Yeah.
And I've never gone that far.
Okay.
Because I'm not deep enough.
Okay.
I don't do sincerity very well, honestly. So I just think something that's got a nice build to it rather than just a funny one-liner. I always think is a nice way to get off.
You mentioned a moment ago when I mentioned those sort of people like Mickey Flanagan and that, and you said, oh, that's why they're more successful than I am. And you also had a line, I think, in your Different Class show where you were talking about the spare DVDs you had left over.
Yeah.
There was some reference to the fact that you were exploring the idea that you were sort of successful and famous,
Not
but
quite.
somewhere
This in-betweeny thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how do you feel about your level of success?
I think I'm exactly where I deserve to be. I think I am. You know what? I've had 4-star reviews across the board for this show, and I think that's fair. I think I'm not going, oh, this is a 5-star show. These people are idiots. I'm going, yeah, 4, no, that's fair. That's fair. And if I had a 3-star review, I'd be like, oh, that's a bit harsh.
Okay.
I'm a 4-star comedian, and I make a handsome living out of being a 4-star comedian. I think that's the.
Have you?
It's not like I don't aspire to greatness. I'm aware of my own limitations.
And have you always been? Were you kind of burning passionately for 5-star reviews and you didn't get them, and so you sort of accommodated that?
No, I mean in '98 when I got nominated for the Perrier and I got 5-star reviews for most of the publications, and that was great, and and you shouldn't care about these things, but I'm shallow and I do. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing is, all right, an individual reviewer's opinion you can say doesn't matter, but when when there's a consensus, I think it's fair enough to take that on board, And I was here in 2004, and I got a hammering, and I went, and I hadn't been doing it for a while, and I'd gotten lazy, and I was living high on the Carphone Warehouse money, and I'd taken my foot off the gas. And so I came back up in 2006, renewed and revigored, and and since then the shows have gotten consistently much better than they were then. And I think you do have to a certain extent, listen to your critics because, they watch a lot of comedy, most of them. And it's very easy to go, fucking critics, what do they know? Well, some of them at least know something. And if they all say the same thing, then I think you got to take that on board. So they're all saying it's 4 stars, and they're right.
Do you read the reviews when you're up here during the process?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of comedians do and say that they don't, and some genuinely don't. But yeah, I do.
And do you engage with that? Do you sort of take it on board? Would you ever change something? Because say 3 reviews came out that hammered one particular point, would you think I should change that, or would you ignore it?
Yeah, I probably would. But then you also get feedback through other sources like Twitter and things like that as well. Or my wife, who is a publicist and so has her ear to the ground with journalists and stuff like that. And I think any kind of and talking to people who've been to the show, any kind of feedback, I'm happy to go. Yeah, maybe that's. But the best feedback is when you're actually on stage and you're going, that's not working, so you cut it out.
Sure.
I had a bit that I was really enjoying doing. It's just not flying because it's just too long and too wordy, and people are going to go, yeah, that's a good point, and that's all it gets. So I just dropped it.
For tour dates, news, updates, whatever they are, and the latest episodes of the Comedian's Comedian podcast, go to stuartgoldsmith.com.